digital marketing certificate course. Content today, we're going to share the annual planning part with class. And hey, thanks for the nice note there, Karen, about the class being good for everyone. You're absolutely right. We will take all comers. Thank you. And thanks, Tom, for sharing that link. Okay, annual planning, folks. Here's how I think about it. There's always been a division in the two types of planning that you do. You would do either annual planning or strategic planning. And historically, annual planning was maybe obviously for 1 year. Your annual plan was for 1 year. And then your strategic plan was typically for 5 years. And I would say it's been like this for 20 years, like 2 decades. This is how business has been run. And then COVID hit, and everybody realized that that 5-year strategic plan was completely worthless. And they started changing the way that they thought about the strategic planning process. And I just read a white paper from McKinsey Consultants. They're a super fancy consulting company that charges $1 gazillion, but they do some fantastic research and thought leadership. And in this white paper, they said, we think that strategic planning, the way that we knew it, is dead for now and for the foreseeable future. And that you should do, they said, you should do strategic plans now with a totally different time horizon. And what do you think McKinsey Consulting thinks is the right time horizon for a strategic plan? Tell me, 6 months, 1 year, 6 months, 18 months, 3 months, 5 years, 6 months. All right. 18 to 24. There's some good examples. There's some good guesses. So McKinsey said, we think the time horizon for the strategic plan is 1 to 3 years. Well, I thought that was funny. 1 year is just an annual plan, but they believe the world has changed so much and is changing so much that, in fact, you should not be trying to plan anything 5 years out. The most you should do is 3 years, and maybe you just need to be on an annual planning cycle now that tackles both the tactical elements as well as the strategic, the higher level strategic elements. And I'm going to circle back now. Take a look at this slide. That annual plan, that's really tactical elements. And as digital marketers, our annual plans typically included things like campaign plans. So literally which campaigns we would be running at what time in the year, and specific metrics. It would get down to, I would have specific metrics around page views and number of social followers and those types of metrics that would be way too granular and way too high in the sky. You could never guess that for something on the strategic plan that was 5 years out. The important thing about that strategic plan, and the reason I was always worried about the strategic plan, was because of one of these line items in here. In fact, it's big investments. I was always trying to fund my technology investments as a marketer. And so I had to get early on that strategic planning to make sure I had some cash earmarked for technology investments. And I see Jessica has a funny note here. She said, look, on my strategic plan, I was told, or for strategic planning, I was told it really depends on how innovative my company is. So do you guys think that our association industries are very innovative? Traditionally, we have not been innovative, but I think that things really changed this year because conferences just threw us all for a loop. And exactly, so Susan's saying we are now. I feel like one positive result of COVID has been we had innovation thrust upon us. We had to innovate our way out of reliance on annual conferences and meetings and more. Okay, so look, we haven't done these quizzes for a while. Thank goodness, somebody says. We are more innovative than we were in the past. We have not had a quiz in a while, so I'm going to ask Tom. Let's get that quiz up. Let's get in the game. All right, quiz for today. The first quiz. How would you rate your annual plan? It should say annual plan. Excellent, pretty good, fair, poor. I wrote it while I was watching TV. Or I don't have time to plan. I don't have time for bathing. I don't have time to eat. I'm just trying to keep the lights on here. Okay, not very many people saying excellent. And I admire those of you that do have an excellent plan, but we're doing okay. We got pretty good and fair, could use a polish. All right. So I think that that's very interesting. We've got some room for improvement, that's for sure, but not as bad as last semester. They did not perform as well on that quiz. All right. Thank you, Tom, for sharing all the information. We're going to jump ahead here. Now, this is what I think about even before COVID, the association industry's annual planning process, it was a mess. And there's our messy graphic right there. The truth is that we kind of had mediocre plans. Realistically, the plans that I encountered in the past and continue to encounter tended to be just repeat. And we call them wash and repeat plans. So somebody just took last year's plan, made a few edits, changed a few dates, and turned it in. And that's not really an annual plan. An annual plan is supposed to be propelling your day-to-day business forward at least. The good thing about COVID, like we just discussed, is it destroyed annual plans, and it pushed us to make changes and think outside of the box. It pushed us to become innovative. Now, what I see with annual plans with my clients is that there's this desire to return to normal. And so do you guys hear this too? Are you hearing the whispers in the virtual hallways at least? Okay, we're going to get through Delta and we will be back to normal. We'll be back to normal. We can get our annual meeting back to normal. We can get invoicing back to normal. We can get our publication, we can get our mailings back to normal. And Maddie says exactly what I think, that normal is a myth. We are not going back to that old normal. So we're going to be talking with an event expert in a little bit, but I do not believe personally, and my research does not show, that we are going back to these in-person only large events for most of the associations that I work with. My research shows that we are not going to be going back to paper journals, paper periodicals at most of my clients. It used to be that the premium membership was the one that included all of like the fancy journal that you got mailed to you every month. And then suddenly nobody was in the office to pick up those journals, and that membership's not worth much. And somebody put the word in there that I suspected was going to come up, and that's hybrid. We're going to be talking about hybrid today too. So this desire to return to normal, that's part of this mess. I think this mess, if you hear this, we just need to get back to normal, that's a mess. In fact, a wise man once said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And what he was saying was, do not repeat old plans. Take the opportunity to drive innovation. Take the opportunity to make a change. Now, Winston Churchill was not talking about his association or his membership plan or his event plan. He was talking about Great Britain. But this quote came up again in our recent past. Does anybody know who else brought this quote up and what crisis they were talking about? This is a little bit of political quizzery, seeing who's a political junkie. I think association people tend to be political junkies. Does anybody know who else said it? Who said it? Okay, I'll tell you who it was. There it is. Andy has it. It was Rahm Emanuel, former mayor of Chicago. And before that, he was, I think, chief of staff for Barack Obama. And he was talking about the financial crisis of 2008. So he said, we're going to pile in, basically what he's saying is, we're going to pile in all of our wish list items into these turnaround plans. So because this is a time when people have an appetite to make a change, because we're in the middle of a crisis and they know we need to make a change. And you and we're all in the middle of a COVID crisis. And I've been stymied, I've been blocked on changes that I wanted to execute for my clients and when I was the CMO at the American Bar. And I'm sure that you're being blocked on changes that you want to execute. And now is the time. Do not repeat your old plans. Do not let this crisis go to waste. Put your whole wish list in there. Make it happen, and you're going to make it happen in that annual plan. In fact, this is your moment. There will not be a new normal. Suddenly your board is engaged and willing to talk about digital in a way that they never were before, because they were forced to be all digital last year, and they are forced to be all digital this year, and they're going to be at least meaningfully digital next year. And in fact, I can't tell you how much my consulting business has changed, and so many clients are coming to me to do digital road mapping so we can figure out what the investments are that they need to make over a relatively short time horizon, and their boards are up for it. Their boards are saying, tell us what the number is, tell us what we need to do. We're ready to make those investments. And your peers also have a new appreciation for digital. They believe, and they are looking often to you as the digital marketer to be the digital expert. Larger digital investment is definitely on the table. I'm hearing this more and more. Tell me, so I'm just now taking a peek at the chat here. So tell me, are you all seeing an opportunity to increase your digital investment in a way that you did not have before? So I appreciate the yeps. Yeah, definitely. So I am shocked. Basically I spent 15 years talking to boards about the need to go digital, and it was a slow crawl in those conversations. And I would say in the last year, we made more progress than 15 years of those past conversations. So if you are not aggressively talking about digital and digital technology investment and digital training, like this training and more, now is the time. Now is the time. Just to recap, annual plans are a mess. It's a mess. If you don't think, if I haven't made that clear, I think it's a mess. And now is the time to execute a great annual plan that is not a rinse and repeat. And here are some things that I would look for if you were giving me an annual plan. I would want some SMART objectives, and that's not just all capitalized because I like to do all caps. Who remembers what SMART is? What's the S? Who's got an S? Maybe SMART is not specific. There we go. Who knows the M? I think it's specific. M is measurable. You're right. The A. Who knows the A? Specific, measurable, attainable. I think it's attainable, not actionable. So here's a tip also. Always be sure to Google what are SMART objectives before you write them down, because you want to make sure you've got those categories right. The R is realistic. Is that right? R is realistic. And T is timely. And somebody can correct me on all of this. Time bound. So within a specific time horizon. All right, an easier acronym is KPIs. And we have not talked about KPIs, but this is an acronym that is almost as frequently used as CTAs. That's another favorite of mine. So what are KPIs? Somebody give it to me. There we go, key performance indicators. So these are specific metrics that you need to achieve. You include those when you're talking about objectives. You want to include performance in your annual plan. So actually, I'd like to know what your backward-looking performance was. How did it work last year? You have some metrics for this coming year, but what did you do last year? You need to execute some research. And I'll tell you, many of us don't have the time or the budget to do fancy survey research or focus group research. But when we're doing annual plans, I do expect to see some kind of indication of research or some fresh insights. And at the American Bar, the way we did it was, and Tom even did this, when he was with the American Bar, we did mini focus groups. We did mini not focus groups. We did mini one-on-one interviews. So Tom would just randomly call 5 members and chat to them a little bit about their membership. And at least that gave us a little voice of consumer perspective in our annual plan. And you'll see that VOC, voice of consumer, is something where you do these one-on-one conversations to hear what they have to say. All right, I also look for learnings. Like last year, we learned about this stuff, and we're going to stop doing this. We're going to start doing that. Promotion is campaign calendar and resources. You almost always asking for money or time or more people, and that all goes in that annual plan. All right, so that's annual planning in a nutshell. Thank you to all the folks that joined us on the live stream. We appreciate you listening in, and if you're interested, in October 7th, we'll be starting a new semester of the Association Digital Marketing Academy class. You can find it all online in the link that's included in